make you accept all the bad things that are happening, to turn you into a biological android, a type of zombie. You cannot make this up. Please send this video to everyone you know. For God's sakes, understand how serious this is. This is a global, scientific, corporate takeover of life itself. The globalists aren't just re-engineering corn and wheat and every other major crop and engineering sterilants into them. Suddenly, all over the news, they're promoting lithium and Prozac and other drugs in the water. Head bioethicist at Cambridge, they're the people that advise and set medical policy for doctors, are announcing they want to force drug you, and they're calling it cognitive enhancement. I've got a CBS News piece where they say that mercury helps your intelligence when everyone knows it causes brain damage.
Mercury-containing vaccines may help, not harm kids, according to 2 new studies in the journal Pediatrics.
And what I've understood, going to it at length now, but I certainly will over the weekend in the 2 talks, what I've realized is that those in the shadows who understand how the system works, they've hijacked the computer. They're dictating its sense of reality. They're programming the computer. Now, if you wanted to program a human computer system to see the world the way you want them to see it, then what would you say? You sit around a table. Well, I don't know if they'd agree to this because it's outrageous, but what if we could get them to agree to give us their children from a very early age and let us have control of what their children receive in terms of information and perception of possibility in themselves at least 5 days a week for their entire childhood and teenage years. During this, if they'd let us do that, then we at the end of it would turn out people who are programmed purely by repetition, never mind anything else, to see the world the way we want them to see it. And then, of course, once we've done that to a few generations of people, those people called parents will then pass on that programming to the next generation, and so it goes on, and so it goes on. And so we have been subjected to mind programming over generation after generation after generation. So most people in the world already see the world the way those manipulating want us to see it. And therefore, they're not people who are making conscious decisions based on weighing up the situation. They are people who are merely following the programmed perception, thinking that they're coming to their own conclusions.
Well, journalists who work for the BBC, and I was one, the message is think for yourself, and don't take the norms in society, and this is what I would say to any journalist, don't take the norms in society as the point of reference for how you see the world and how you report the world, because that's what happens. I saw it in journalism myself. People say, so you're saying that all journalists are involved in, they're all manipulating. No. What happens in journalism, mainstream journalism I'm talking about, is they take the norms in society at any point, and that's their point of reference. So anyone that is saying or doing things outside of those norms is in my case, ridiculed because they're outside the norm. So a few centuries ago, today's journalists would have ridiculed anyone who said the earth was round, because the norm was at that time that it was flat. And so it's important for journalists to open their minds to see that the norms are not necessarily everything there is to know. But then you've got the next level with the BBC and mainstream journalism in general, in which there are limits to what you're allowed to put out. You know, if you reported someone like me in a, oh, this guy takes the points and and all this stuff, then that's fine. You can report me on that level. But if you said, okay, we're gonna do this report or this documentary on this guy. And actually, we're going to take seriously what he's saying. Not that we're going to believe it, but what we're going to do is we're going to go with an open mind and we're going to look at the evidence. And that's a completely different situation. And I doubt very much if that would be acceptable, and certainly would never make the air. I've been interviewed a couple of times by tabloid journalists who wanted to do, in the last occasion, a 2-page feature about what I was saying about me, and all the photographs were taken and everything. But his article was going to be, actually, this guy's not crazy, and he might be saying this, but hey, you know, never made the paper, never got in, just never ever used. And this guy was a named frontline writer for that paper, never used. So there are two things running together in journalism. One is the closed-mindedness of most journalists, certainly not all, and the other thing is even those that are open to seeing life in a more expansive way, they then face the block of the structure. And the worst kind of censorship is self-censorship. This is how the system works. It's like the mouse in the laboratory maze. If you're going to get a shock all the time for going down these channels, then you stop going down them, and you can take the shock technology away, the mouse won't go down there anymore because it's been shocked too many times. And with journalists, if you know that if you cross a certain line in what you write, then there's going to be, it's either going to get spiked, not used, or there's going to be a problem for you, then eventually most journalists know the line they shouldn't cross. And there's a very interesting documentary which is available through the internet. It's about, I forget what it's called now, but it's about Fox News. It's a documentary talking to former people who work for Fox News, of course Murdoch's station in America, which is the most biased station I've ever seen. And they tell this whole story of how there's such limits on what they can say and how they can report things that in the end you just stop putting it in or offering it or doing it if it crosses that line. Self-censorship's the worst thing, because then, you know, there's no confrontation, there's no debate, hey, why is this being censored? It just isn't done, and that's the worst kind of censorship. And journalists who succumb to that, well, they've succumbed to any connection to the word journalist for me.
Very bottom line of this whole global conspiracy is, and has always been, to sell people a false identity of themselves. From cradle to grave, you are told you are the body computer. That's who you are. Once you get one generation believing a certain thing, they pass it on to the next generation, not through malevolence, but because they think that's how it is. And what you've got, therefore, are people going through an entire lifetime, all over the world, virtually, being told that they are their space.
They may tell those stupid TSA agents that they're going to be dying of cancer. They may tell the guys driving the 500 mobile trucks around that look right through your walls, 10 times more powerful than a chest x-ray, it's okay, but it isn't. It's not okay. It's not okay. Now, I promise I'm getting to your phone calls. But none of this has anything to do with terrorism. Get that through your heads. This is your baptism of slavery. This is your indoctrination. This is your conditioning. Hey, the government, I told you 15 years ago, takes all babies' blood at birth for 39 years in the U.S. Now that's mainstream news, and it goes to the Pentagon. The government shoots up little kids worldwide with live syphilis, with live polio. They nerve gas our own troops in Project Shad. It's eugenics. They're conditioning you. They want population reduction. They're training you to be fried by radiation. They're using DU on our own troops. Project Shad. Wake up, evil people, run things. Stop being so naive. Come on.
Over to Bob for the weather and funnies. A murdering mob, some ugly Bugs Bunny, with a Valentine's card from a ghost town that's haunted by the National Guard and America's least wanted. Coming up next, we got more global warming, the greenhouse effect on the Beatles reforming, a miracle diet of water and lettuce, Los Angeles riots, more after this message. in the next half an hour, the jury with their verdict, 2 bags of flour, a pig and a turnip. On the day of the jackass in the year of the bing bong, they adjourned to the crack house for a beer and a sing-song. To the end of this story, I'll tell your mum and dad not to worry. I'll love you forever when the TV is gone, and I'll love you now when it's on. Potatoes and meat from the heart of America, to the eyes and the teeth and the arsehole of everywhere, for the great of the good and the love of the nation, to the boys in the hoods with a crucifixation. Cable the network to the land, to the plenty where the tables are set, but the cupboards are empty. It's sexy, it's groovy, it's big and it's clever. Turn on and tune in and switch off forever. Turn on, tune in, 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 switch off forever.
You ever heard that phrase, everyone knows that, mate? Well, why does everyone know that? Well, it's because this system is controlled by what I call repeaters. They're people in the situations of power and influence who just repeat what someone else tells them. A doctor is repeating what they were told at medical school and what the drug companies tell them. You've got teachers who repeat what they learned in their exams and what they learned at teacher training college, and they repeat that to the next generation. And the great repeaters are what pass for journalists. This is that area outside Parliament where they stand there doing their pieces to camera, telling people what's going on. Here we have the crews waiting for the journalists to come across from Westminster and stand there and tell them what's happening in the world. The fact is, they don't know what's happening. They know nothing. So this is what they should be saying if they were telling the truth. Now over to Westminster for the latest news from David Icke. Thank you, you. Well, I've got to be honest, mate, I haven't got a clue what's going on. I tell you what my job is, right? I wear a dark suit, not normally, but, you know, I'm playing here. And I'm come over from there, and I tell you what they've told me is going on. And I deliver it as if I know what's going on, and it's really true. I've got a clue if it's true. But they tell me, and they wouldn't lie, would they? I mean, would Tony Blair lie about what's really happening? Would George Bush, please? I'm a journalist, trust me. And so, what we call news, what you get paid a lot of money for reading Autocue about, is merely propaganda that they have told me and I tell you. David Icke, BBC, ITN, CNN, CBS, Sky News, Westminster.
You think I'd be on hundreds of radio stations, on all these years, lying? You think I'd get away with that? I've already given you all the evidence and all the proof. Why don't you just go check it out for yourself? When I get up here and tell you Anwar al-Awlaki, I told you this 5 years ago, is CIA operative behind finding these mentally ill Muslims to carry out badly coordinated attacks as a pretext to take our rights. If that wasn't true, I'd be crucified. But people send me emails saying I'm lying about AP and Fox News. I'm not lying about any of this. I'm telling the truth. And a lot of you out there that sit on the fence and quietly know this is true, media people, government people, corporate people who go along with this, you're being enslaved because of it.